You just bought a water bottle because you didn't trust the tap, and that instinct feels sensible in the moment. But bottled water isn't automatically safer. Sometimes it's just processed tap with a premium label. Sometimes it gets hit with recalls or contamination issues. And sometimes the packaging itself adds stuff you didn't ask for, like plastic particles. This video is about what's really in what you're drinking, and what people in England should actually be drinking day to day. Across the UK, around 7.7 billion plastic bottles are bought every year. That's about 21 million a day for something your own country already runs, tests, and regulates. In England, drinking water compliance in 2024 was 99.97%. Thames Water says 1 cubic metre, 1,000 litres, costs 2.4743 for clean water as of 1 April 2025. That works out to roughly a quarter of a penny per litre. Yet bottled water volume sales still rose 5.1% in 2024, and 5 companies control 83% of bottled water sales in the UK. That's the trick. A basic utility gets dressed up as a lifestyle purchase, and you pay the markup because you're busy, you're tired, and the label sounds reassuring. We checked labels, owners, recall alerts, and the points where the purity story stops feeling clean. By the end, you'll spot the rip-offs fast, and you'll know which brands deserve a second look on UK shelves. Some bottled waters fail loudly, others fail quietly. Dasani managed to do both. Number 1. Dasani, Coca-Cola. Britain already tried Dasani once, and the country rejected it like a bad audition. The pitch was clean and modern. Pure, still, controlled. A big company promising to take the uncertainty out of water. The problem was the reveal. Coverage at the time said Dasani was tap water from Kent, sold with a label that pushed purity like it came from somewhere wild and untouched. People weren't furious about tap water. They were furious about the costume. Tap water, dressed up as premium, priced like a perk, sold like you were lucky to have it. Then the story hit its real wall. On 19 March 2004, Coca-Cola pulled Dasani from shelves in the UK after tests found bromate above the UK legal limit. Reporting at the time described the bromate limit as 10 parts per billion, with tested samples between 10 and 22. Coca-Cola called it a precautionary recall and said there was no health risk. If you've never heard of bromate, here's the simple version. It's a byproduct that can show up during certain processing steps. You don't smell it. You don't taste it. All you get is the headline, and a sudden feeling that factory perfect is only perfect until it isn't. The detail that sticks is where the failure came from. Reports described bromate as a manufacturing issue, with Coca-Cola pointing to added calcium that didn't meet its quality standards. That's the part brands don't want you to picture. Bottled water is a chain of parts, suppliers, and processes, and the weak link can sit miles away from the source. That's why Dasani still matters. It sold certainty, then got pulled because of a factory problem. You can't taste bromate, but you do remember the recall, and you remember how quickly the pure story fell apart. This one doesn't rely on scandal, it relies on image. Number 2, Glasso Smart Water, Coca-Cola. Smart water is what happens when water gets a glow-up and a corporate job. The bottle is tall, the name sounds like a gadget, and the branding quietly says you've got your life together. Coca-Cola's UK page says it's made from British spring water that's vapor distilled, with electrolytes added and produced and bottled in Morpeth, Northumberland. In plain English, they start with spring water, strip it down through distillation, then add minerals back in so it tastes crisp instead of flat. The process is real. The way it's sold is the performance. The price tells you that. Tesco listed a 600 ml bottle at £1.10, which works out at about £1.83 per litre. Compare that with tap water at a fraction of a penny per litre, and you're paying for branding, not hydration, and the branding leans hard on the clean lab vibe. Vapor distilled, inspired by clouds, electrolytes. It's the language of precision, the language you buy when you want certainty in a noisy world. Now bring in the part nobody wants on the front label. In January 2024, Columbia Public Health researchers shared results from a study that found 110,000 to 370,000 plastic particles per liter in bottled water. They tested, with about 90% described as nanoplastics, tiny bits you can't see. The brands in that work weren't named, and scientists are still mapping what long-term exposure means. The takeaway is straightforward. With bottled water, the container can be part of what ends up in the drink. Coca-Cola also says smart water water bottles are made from 100% recycled peat, while the cap and label are recyclable but not made from recycled plastic. Even the greener version still keeps fresh plastic in the parts you touch first. So treat this bottle honestly. If you buy it for taste or convenience. Don't buy it because the cloud language made you feel cleaner, sharper, or more organized than you were 5 seconds ago. This is where routine does most of the damage. Number 3, Buxton, Nestlé. Buxton feels harmless because it feels familiar. It's a place name, it reads local. It looks like the quiet multi-pack that lives in office kitchens, school runs, and family cars. That familiarity is exactly why it deserves a closer look. Buxton sits inside Nestlé's water business, which means your normal little shop is also feeding a multinational portfolio built on volume. The multi-pack psychology does the work. Tesco listed Buxton Still Natural Mineral Water, 6 by 1.5 liters at 4.30, and it has run a club card price at 3. That discount builds momentum. Once the pack's in your boot, you stop making a decision tomorrow. Tomorrow, you just grab another bottle. Step behind the label and the story gets bigger. A Guardian investigation using Freedom of Information data reported that 5 firms control 83% of the UK bottled water market, with Roxane leading at 38%. That's a big rip-off queue. The shelf looks like choice. The ownership map looks like a few giants. The same reporting said Coca-Cola holds the largest water extraction license in England, with up to 1.59 billion litres permitted annually from Kent alone, plus another 377 million litres for its bottled water brands. It also said Nestlé Waters has the right to extract a total of 808 million litres of water for Buxton and Pure Life from sites in Derbyshire and Pembrokeshire. That's water turned into a line item, then into a habit, then into a bin. Nestlé knows abstraction is sensitive, so it leans into stewardship language. Nestlé UK says its Buxton bottling site maintained platinum status under the Alliance for Water Stewardship standard in 2024. Maybe that's meaningful progress. It also tells you something blunt. This is big enough and contested enough that it needs a trust badge to keep the purchase feeling effortless. So if Buxton is your default, do one simple thing. Flip the bottle and read the language that's doing the work. Natural mineral, spring, source, British. Then ask yourself why that had to be packaged and shipped in the first place, when you already live in a country with regulated tap water. Next, no scandal, no outrage, just a brand that wins by becoming your default. Number 4, Highland Spring. Highland Spring is the UK's sensible bottled water. It's the one people grab when they want to feel like they made the grown-up choice, not the rushed choice. That reputation is power, because it makes the purchase feel automatic. Nobody argues with Highland Spring. That's why it wins. Highland Spring's own annual results for the year ending 31 December 2024 said sales grew 13.5% to £148.2 million, as it kept pushing toward a stated ambition of £200 million. That's a serious machine built on everyday repeat buys. Here's the angle that matters. The brand doesn't need a scandal to cost you money. It just needs to sit there, quietly respectable, while you keep choosing it on autopilot. You stop reading the small print. You stop asking whether you're buying water or buying relief from thinking. If you want one UK bottled water brand to interrogate the one that feels most normal. Normal is where the routine hides. This brand is priced on purity. Even a small crack in trust matters. Number 5, Perrier, Nestlé. Perrier sells itself like it's untouchable. Green glass, French heritage, a name that signals this table has standards. Then April 2024 happened. Perrier destroyed 2 million bottles after bacteria described as of fecal origin was found in one of its wells in Gard, in southern France. Reports said French authorities asked the company to stop using that well as a precaution. Nestlé pointed to heavy rainfall as part of the context. Authorities said products on shelves were safe. The brand still took a hit because it's built on effortless purity. If your whole price is based on don't worry about it, anything that forces you to worry becomes a problem, even when officials say there's no immediate danger. You're not buying bubbles, you're buying trust. Then the reputational damage widened in May 2025. A French Senate inquiry said the government covered up decisions around illegal treatment of mineral water by Nestlé, including Perrier. Associated Press reporting framed the issue as consumer deception and transparency failure rather than a confirmed mass health event. That distinction matters. Nobody needs a horror story to walk away from a premium promise. Sometimes all it takes is the feeling that the label stopped telling the whole truth. There's another reason Perrier belongs here. It sells water and it sells a fantasy that the past was cleaner, the source was protected, and modern systems can't touch it. The moment that fantasy meets paperwork, inspections, and what counts as natural, the shine fades fast. This one isn't about what's in the water. It's about everything wrapped around it. Number 6. S. Pellegrino, Nestlé. S. Pellegrino is hydration for people who want witnesses. In restaurants it arrives like part of your identity, not part of your meal. You order it because it looks right next to the plate. There's a clean reason to avoid it, that doesn't rely on scandal. On its own sustainability page, S. Pellegrino says its first life cycle assessment found around 87% of its emissions worldwide were in packaging and logistics. That's the brand admitting the biggest impact is everything around the water. Think about what that means in real life. The glass, the weight, the crates, the shipping, the fuel, the fact that this product is designed to travel because the whole point is that it traveled. S. Pellegrino says it followed up with assessments in 2021, 2022, and reported reductions versus a 2018 baseline. That's progress. The core logic still stands. This is a status bottle first, and a drink second. If you want sparkling water at home, you can get it without paying for an import performance. If you want the performance, buy it as a treat and own the reason, instead of pretending it's a normal daily hydration choice. This bottle sells balance, calm, and credibility, and it does it very well. Number 7. Evian, Danone. Evian is the bottle that makes people feel balanced. The mountain story does the work. The design stays calm. The brand wraps itself in a health halo without you having to do anything. This is where the market gets clever. Big players don't just sell water. They buy credibility and shelf space that looks like choice. Evian sits inside Danone's portfolio. Danone has also expanded its UK presence through acquisitions that look small on the shelf, but matter in the background. In February 2020, Danone and Harrogate Water announced an agreement for Danone to acquire a majority stake in Harrogate Water, the company behind Harrogate Spring Water. The UK competition regulator cleared the deal on 9 June 2020. That's the giveaway. A multinational can buy a local spring brand, fold it into a portfolio, then sell you the comfort of local identity under a different label. The shelf looks diverse. Ownership concentrates quietly. Evian doesn't need drama to sell. It just needs to be there, calm and classy, every time you walk past. That's how the routine survives. This is what happens when trust in the shelf replaces trust in the process. Number 8. Waitrose No. 1 Royal Decide Mineral Water. This is the bottle people buy because they trust the shelf. Waitrose No. 1 looks like the safe corner of the store, the place where nothing embarrassing happens. The branding leans into that comfort. Waitrose describes it as natural mineral water from a single spring in Scotland's Cairngorms National Park, naturally filtered through deep granite rock before it emerges at the spring. That's the picture it wants in your head. On 30 December 2025, the Food Standards Agency issued a recall alert for Waitrose No. 1 Decide Mineral Water and Waitrose No. 1 Decide Sparkling Water, due to the possible presence of glass. The risk statement was blunt. The product may contain glass, and it is unsafe to drink. The alert lists batch codes and best before dates. That's how you avoid becoming the person in A&E explaining you were only trying to be healthy. This one is simple. When you buy store brand water, you're buying trust in process. If the recall says stop, you stop. No overthinking. Just return it. Bottled water feels like a tiny choice until it becomes your routine, and you stop noticing how often you're paying for the container, the transport, and the branding. And there's a dark joke in all this, and it isn't funny. People buy bottled water to avoid risk, then the bottle becomes the risk. A comparative life cycle assessment published by the University of Michigan found single-use bottled systems consume 11 to 31 times more energy than tap systems, and it notes that plastic bottle production drives most of the energy use for regional bottled systems. Treat bottled water like a backup option. Carry a reusable bottle. Refill where you trust the source. When you do buy a bottle, check recall alerts as part of the purchase every time. Labels sell purity. Recall notices tell you when something broke.